Welcome everybody. We're going to talk about vectors in this class. What is a vector? A vector is a mathematical object that has direction and it also has some numerical values associated with it that we're going to talk about it as magnitude. So we have vectors in 2-dimension, in 3-dimension. We can define vectors. In 2-dimension or the plane, or in 3-dimension, which is the space. And you can also generalize the idea to have 4-dimensional vectors and 5th-dimensional vectors and so on. It has a starting point, initial point, P, and it stops somewhere, Q. If you start from P, then stop at Q, the direction is going this way. So we define vector V or vector U, or you can call it vector W, as we need to know what are the coordinates of each one of these points. So suppose P has first coordinate x1, second coordinate y1, and third coordinate z1. And point V has first coordinate x2, second coordinate y2, and the third coordinate z2. We can define the vector V as, well, in many books, they use this symbol to represent vectors. Sometimes they use parentheses, but make sure you identify that as a vector. We're going to take the difference between x coordinates, take the difference between y coordinates, take the difference between z coordinates. So you have x2 minus x1, comma, y2 minus y1, comma, z2 minus z1, and this guy is a vector with starting point P and stopping point or terminal point at Q. So here you have the initial point, and this guy is the terminal point. And this is a vector associated to these 2 points, starting at P and stopping at Q. Please note that if you write it the other way, like vector W, and write it as x1 minus x2, y1 minus y2, and z1 minus z2, well, they're going to be opposite of each other. In this case, the starting point is going to be Q, and the terminal point is going to be P. This vector is in the opposite direction of vector V. So that's how we define a vector in the space. Remember that if z is equal to 0, we can just define this in the plane in 2-dimension. Let us take a look at one example together. So in this example, I give you point P, which is given to us as 2, -3, and 4, and the terminal point is -2, 1, and 1. We have 2 points, and we're going to define a vector using these 2 points. So the vector V is going to be, this guy is x1, y1, z1, so it starts at this point and stops at Q. Here you have x2, y2, and z2. So following the definition, this vector is going to be -2, -2, 1 minus -3. Be careful about the signs. And here you have 1 minus 4, which is basically -4, 4, and -3. This is our new object. We have many websites that help us to graph 3-dimensional objects. For example, one of the websites that we're going to use is academo.org. So in this case, let's follow the vector that we have here, the vector is -4, what we calculated, -4 and 4 and -3. Let's graph this vector. And suppose this guy is 0, 0, 0. And we're going to add more vectors. There we go. So this is the vector that you see. Take a look at the direction of the vector. So as you can see, we have different operations combining vectors together. I'm going to go over those operations together.